Okay. Hi, Libra. This is Tarot Lumination over here with your love and relationship report for November 2017. That's you, Libra. You've done this before, I'm sure. Please watch for your sun, moon, and rising. Reinterpret however you want. Add on your own layers of understanding, different perspectives on the cards. Tell your own story. Make it work for you. Tarot Illumination is not a fortune teller. We can only do so much here. So make the best of it. There's no jumpers, no flyers, no oracles, no reversals, none of it. It's just very plain, very simple. We're also going to use this crucible spread that I like, where it's all about you. There's a chosen one and the relationship itself, on the understanding that the relationship has a life and energy and identity of its own. Okay? And in a healthy relationship, you conduct everything through the relationship. All right, let's have a look here. Let's have a look. The cards are shuffled, already shuffled in advance, but we just go to the last second while we're just doing an introduction and how do you do. So here we go. All right, Libra, this is it. Here's your energy, okay? Here is a significant other. Here's deeper inside of you. Here's deep inside a significant other, or your significant other, and here's the passing energy of the relationship right now. There's you, the other, and the relationship itself. The relationship has its own identity. It would even have its own astrological chart if you really want to. And over here, this would be the momentum. Like, where does this all lead? What's the story here? And under here, we're going to look at the, let's say, circumstances or the weather permeating the situation just for now. Okay. Remember, we're just talking about a few weeks here. Things will change. So what have we got? Okay, King of Wands. So Libra, you might be feeling as though you're just in the right place at the right time and on top of things, and that's just great. It's possibly a great time for you to assert yourself, assert your wishes in a way that isn't just good for you, self-satisfying, but good for everybody. And you're enjoying your sovereignty of self. You're enjoying being who you are, and you're being encouraged to be that way with yourself and others, and your significant other too. So, but also there's a lot of responsibilities that come here too. So for you, Libra, let's just say this is pretty good news, okay? Also, it could be, by the way, a chance for you to rise up to this kind of stature where you can really come into your own, so to speak. Not just for yourself, but for the relationship and for others. King of Pentacles. Wow. Happy for you, Libra. So this is an indication that you are feeling like, I don't know, I would just say pretty solid. Like you've done a pretty good job with yourself to get things to where they are right now. And it's starting to work. You're starting to see it in your world, your environment, your relationships, your people, including a significant relationship where you are highly, highly valued, highly appreciated, and you carry yourself with that degree of dignity, that degree of sovereignty. And there's nothing, let's say, shallow about this. There's nothing and there's nothing over the top here. This is really good, solid, reliable, long-term energy of someone who knows what they're doing for the long term and thinks long term and is willing to maintain, do what has to maintain the long-term stability of a relationship. Okay, so that's kind of cool to have all of that sovereignty of self energy happening in and for you and around you right now. Let's have a look. Let's go have a look at a significant other. However, you might be relating with someone who is in a very, very different place inside of themselves right now, because for all we know, maybe this is a little bit over the top. Maybe there's I don't, how can I say this without hurting anybody's feelings? But there's an awful lot of the energy of supremacy here, and ownership and rights and rulership. okay, which is great so long as it's exercised very judiciously, very, very conscientiously for what's good for everyone. And that might be exactly what you're doing and how you're doing it. It just might not be that it's working that way for a significant other. Because, with the Ten of Swords here for a significant other, it's very evident. It's very evident that they are broken. They are broken, like broken beyond repair. What do they call that? Fubar? Fubar, effed up beyond repair. Something like that. And the Ten of Swords could indicate, well, this is it. It's the final blow. It's the final curtain call, let's put it that way, where they might have reached a sort of a pinnacle, like a climactic point where they can't take it anymore. It doesn't matter how wonderful you are. It doesn't matter how generous and magnanimous and inspiring you are. A significant other over here, might just be on their own, in their own internal way or external way, onto something else where they might have been absorbing a lot of pain for a very, very long time, and they just can't take it anymore. It's reached a pinnacle where there's nowhere left to go. It's just the end of things when it comes to all this pain and suffering. And you and your great comfort and sense of dominion and sense of sovereignty and sense of, let's say, rulership, you might not be aware of this. It might be happening around you in a way that you think everything is absolutely just fine because all the evidence, Pentacles is very much about three-dimensional evidence, indicates that everything's just fine in your world and you're doing a pretty good job. On the other hand, the significant other is radiating the energy of someone who's completely broken, basically broken down to the point of, done, fried, and they can't take it anymore. I'm not saying it's because of you or that they're blaming you. It's just in their own particular life chapter, their evolution through life right now. They might be feeling it right here in November that it's the end. It's the end for them, and they're looking to new horizons. It's almost like, when you're out of it, you're totally knocked out, totally wiped out, and the only thing you can do is pray and hope for new beginnings, new horizons. So that's what might be going on here. It also could be an indication that for you, Libra, you might be dealing with a significant other who's basically had enough. They're saying, I can't take it anymore. I can't take the pain anymore. Now, this could be just simply their own pain, like no harm, no judgment on you, Libra. They're not condemning you in any way. They might just be in their own private journey of miserable, crippling pain here, and they can't take it anymore. You might not be aware of it at all because you might be very comfortable with how things are for you right now. But from their perspective, as a chosen one, significant one in this relationship, there's something definitely not quite right. Let's have a look. We'll see how the rest of the story starts to fold out from the Tarot Illumination perspective. You can see this in totally different ways if you want to. Okay, Libra? It's up to you. Let's have a look. Okay, so my feeling here with the Hierophant is that it's just say, like, you have a way of being. You have deep down this way of things are done in a certain way, preferably in your way, the way that works for you, which hopefully works for everybody else. Now, typically, I wouldn't see this as very, very self-serving kind of energy here, but there's so much dominance of male energy here. Whether you're a male or female watching this, this is very, very dominant energy of almost to the point of absolutism. Also, it feels to me that you're like the one deep down who likes to call the shots, who likes to write the code, write the vows of how things are going to be and how they're all going to be done from now and here on till kingdom come. Thank you very, very much. So that could almost get to the point of oppression, where there's such strong energy here, irrefutable energy, which is very noble in its own way, but it could also be interpreted as very, very oppressive and no longer tolerable. Now, you might not mean it that way. For all you know, for all the rest of us know, you might think this is the prime time to lock things up and let's make it formal. Let's get married. You know, some people see this as the marriage card, as a formalization of marriage and creating the vows. And yet you're dealing with this over here, Libra. So there might be a very large disparity between what you feel is going on in the relationship and what the other party is happening with them in the relationship. And you might not be aware of it at all. You might be either being given the appearance or just assuming that things are working in such a way where you are the one who calls the shots, and it's all done with the best of intentions, okay? I'm saying, like, you know how I used the word self-serving earlier? All I'm suggesting here is that it's done with the best of intentions. There's no harm intended here, but you might not be aware that you are behaving in self-interest above and beyond the love of another or the full consideration of a harmonious, balanced relationship where, like, you know, it's like having a religious authority figure who basically calls the shots, and anything that is not according to their code is, you know, unacceptable. So it's kind of a form of absolutism in terms of power and dominion and exercise of power. It could be, again, with all the very, very best of intention. It just might be very, very oppressive and unbearable for a significant other. I don't know, maybe this is just happening in November, but maybe it's continuous. But with the 10 here, it feels like it might have been building up for a long time, and it's reached a complete breaking point. So we're looking at two very different energies, different situations here. Let's go a little bit deeper. Let's have a look. Okay, because deep down they want to be happy. Being happy, it's very, very hard to be happy when you're like this in your day-to-day life. Okay, when you've got this going on, where you're essentially either being a pincushion or you have been a pincushion to yourself. You might have been, this other person might have been very self-destructive or allowed themselves to be a pincushion for you or for others, and they just can't take it anymore. Deep down, they might be seeking happiness, their own rights to their own happiness and their own dominion of self, where they call their own shots in ways that works for them. So again, but Libra, you might not be aware of that because this would be under the surface. Also, my feeling is that you're dealing with a significant other, Libra, who is aware that there is, let's say, what's that expression? The sun behind the clouds, you know, that the dawn will rise and everything's going to be beautiful again in some way, some form or other. Can you see that? Because if you just want to look at this as potential new sunrise, way off in the distance, and it has a chance of happening, and yet right now it's the depth of darkness and despair, and it's crippling pain that is intolerable, and they don't even know how they're getting through it, but they find ways to endure because deep down they sense something is good that is happening, or that they are going to find their own ways to create their own light and happiness from the inside out with a way that could work with you. I mean, there's nothing to stop that, but it means that there's going to have to be some kind of radical change in the way the relationship is structured right now, because there's something very seriously out of whack with the relationship. No matter your best intentions, even if you say, I love you so much, I want to marry you. And even though they are seeking their own happiness inside, and they actually have their own happiness and joy and light inside, it may not, because of this high degree of, like, the end of all this pain, it could be that it's something to do with the end of all of this. In other words, well, let's just see. I don't want to start predicting here. Tarot Illumination is not a fortune teller. I'm just trying to read a little story here for you, and you can reinterpret however you want. These are beautiful cards in their own way, you know. Let's just go back to this. For all we know, dear Libra, they might feel as though they've really scored with you, and they've just come to an end of their own pain and suffering in some way, and they're starting to refurbish themselves from the inside out, which might work for you. It might work for everybody. So we'll see, but there's no question about it. Right now, things are undeniably very, very painful for the significant other. And it has to change, and it will change. And they are determined that it will change, because this is no longer acceptable. This is crippling, unending, end of the road type of pain. Okay, let's have a look. What's the nature itself? Okay, this is, some people call this the divorce card. So we're just going to call it out to keep it simple. If there has been a long-term marriage, there could be a divorce because there's too much pain, too much suffering, and you've got a significant other who wants their own life, and they want light and life and happiness in their own world. And you might be the most wonderful Libra character of all. And it's just not a match in some way, okay? Because there's perhaps too much dominion here where it works really, really well for you, Libra. It's just not working so well for the other. So there might be a separation here. There might be a calling out here where there's let's say, a significant, perhaps painful truth telling. Let's say, bring it on, bring on the truth. Let's find out what's really, really happening here, because this is unsustainable. This is not sustainable for the other party, dear Libra, no matter how awesome you think it might be for yourself or for the relationship, because you might not have the awareness. You might be so wrapped up in how awesome things feel to you and how well you've been doing that you're not aware of this at all. So we have to allow for a little breathing room here in the relationship. So also, with the Queen of Swords here, at the core of the relationship dynamic for this little time period, it can indicate that there could be, let's say, a clashing between parties where, let's say, the pain comes to the surface and it's ultimately declared and admitted, and it's called out and said, enough is enough. Enough is enough is enough. I'm calling it quits to all this pain. And they could be calling out, calling out the whole relationship, putting the whole relationship in question in order to find a way to tune in and tap into their own divine rights to happiness themselves, loving themselves first. But it could be a very, 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 very tough call for the significant other, Libra, because there's so much at stake here, and you might have had so much. There's like, you could have had a really long-term marriage, but it seems to be in jeopardy here. All right, let's have a look. Let's keep going. This reading's going quickly. Let's have a look. Okay, big decisions. Oh my gosh. So, wow, it almost feels like a make it or break it type of situation here. There seems to be a lot of pressure on this relationship where big, big decisions are at stake. In other words, if there is a separation, it's going to be like tumultuous. It's going to be kind of a big deal. It could be very, very liberating for the chosen one. It could be tumultuous for you, Libra, but we don't know yet. All of this is in play right now. We're not saying that this is actually happening. It's just that it's in play. In other words, it's an awareness that by, let's say, the relationship goes into a state of separation, where the crucible of the relationship has reached its maximum ability to handle the pressure of what handles inside a significant, long-term, well-established relationship that has a pre-established code that is essentially written by you, Libra, and it is honored in compliance by a significant other, but it's over as far as they're concerned. The pain, if there was a lot of pain and suffering in the relationship or just within themselves, it's no longer tolerable, so the relationship might be getting called out to the point where it's full on in question. Like, are we going to do this or not? Are we going to separate or stay together? Because that's what this is about. So it feels like there's nothing conclusive here. I'd like to say that there's something conclusive and you can just have a to-go package at the end of this reading where everything feels okay, Libra. But my feeling is that it's like, a chapter in a movie where it's a really big cliffhanger. You come to a realization, you're living a movie, you're living your life, and then suddenly, boom, this happens, and it puts everything in jeopardy. Everything that has been established and built for so long all of a sudden goes into a state of jeopardy where it's almost like it catches you by surprise, and it requires big decisions, because if one of you has decided to call this out and bring it to the surface and just say, well, this is how it is. Either you're calling it out or they're calling it out on themselves. This is no longer acceptable. This is intolerable. There might be a lot of love here. There might be a lot of everything that's good in a relationship. It looks like there's a lot of substance here. It looks like there's been investment, that there's long term, and it might have been just fine for you, Libra, for a long time. But there's something out of whack here to where it's being called out and it puts everything in question. Big, big decisions at stake here. And it feels like I'm going to have to leave you hanging, Libra. The relationship reading here is coming out short in terms of time. And people have been urging Tarot Illumination just get on with it and stop like going around in different versions of the story. So I'm just going to leave it here like this. It feels like we're left at a big cliffhanger, or what are we going to do? Because if someone, either you or your significant chosen other, makes the call, then it's going to change everything. Everything is going to change. If there was a marriage, there could be a divorce. If there's been a separation, there could be a coming together in order to restore happiness and harmony. We don't know. Only you know this, Libra. All I'm suggesting is that we're kind of at a big, oh no moment going through November here. It's like, I don't know what to tell you. It's kind of a big deal. It's just like there's so much at stake. What are you going to do with it? Are we in? Are we out? Now, if you're calling it out and the relationship is in question, fine. If they're calling it out and the relationship is in question, that could have an impact on you. But the sun is desiring expression. The sun needs to shine. The sun wants to shine. The sun will shine no matter what. So that could be what's putting a lot of pressure on this relationship. Okay? I don't want to say anything more. It's just a short reading compared to the others, but so what? Okay? Make the best of it, Libra. You know the drill. Watch for your sun, moon, and rising. Reconfigure, reinterpret to suit yourselves. There are so many different ways you could read this if you wanted to. All right? Make the best of it. Okay, Libra? All the best. Thank you very much for choosing Tarot Illumination. Bye-bye.